the last match of the season at Sydney, Victoria, by forcing a draw, win the Sheffield Shield from New South Wales. The feature of the match is Don Bradman's brilliant contribution of 128 in 96 minutes, out of New South Wales' total of 672 for 8. Having discarded his cap, Bradman employs some of his most daring shots in a great knock, which includes 17 fours and 4 sixes. Don is eventually caught in the deep by Darling of Fleetwood Smith. It is to be hoped that he will not be in quite this mood for the test matches here in the coming season.
The liner Orford docks at Southampton at the end of her voyage from Australia, and among her passengers are 9 members of the test team, consisting of Woodfull, Bradman, Ponsford, Grimmett, Wall, Darling, Ebeling, Fleetwood Smith and O'Reilly. Woodfull, the captain, looks fit despite the rough passage across the bay. Bradman, a little thinner than when last here, is also glad to be in the old country again. First off the ship is that most important item of luggage, the cricket bag, and so Australia's skipper leads his men ashore. At Waterloo, a throng of English cricket enthusiasts await them. Woodfull is welcomed by Lord Hailsham, the president of the MCC. And then Don Bradman, the vice-captain, is greeted as an old friend. Now the leader of the Australians has a word to say to you.
Hello everybody, Woodfull speaking. Just arrived at Waterloo. We've had a very, very fine trip and we're looking forward to a fine season.
Greetings over, the members of the 18th Australian Touring 11 leave the station to lay a wreath at the cenotaph, as their arrival has, happily, coincided with Anzac Day.
At Australia House, the Australian test team are given their official reception and meet old friends, among whom are APF Chapman and RES Wyatt chatting to Woodfull. Later, the Australians are entertained at the journalists' luncheon.
There is one thing I can say that will give the English team special pleasure. I have just arranged that the general tactics and strategy of the Australians will henceforward be under the charge of Mr. J.H. Thomas.
The Prime Minister has given us Mr. J.H. Thomas as our guide, philosopher and friend. I can assure you that we accept him as such a post, and I'm quite sure that if he has the handling of the reins, he's already told me some stories today, I'm afraid I can't.
The Prime Minister said, I'm in charge, and I wonder how the captain will feel about that. The captain whispered to me, my God, that's a mouthful. But the object is that as Dominion Secretary, I'm strictly impartial. bodyline bowling. Prime Minister tried to talk about it. Good God, the only game of cricket that he knows is marbles. And when you get to Scotland for this Beano, cut it out! You couldn't have a Beano with Mac. If you want to play cards with him, ask. It's a farthing a million he'll want to play. You want to have a drink? Ginger pop. If you want to have music, he'll give you Oh God, Our Helping Ages pie.
Afterwards, the team have their first net practice at the Alan Fairfax School. Don Bradman, their great bat, gets his eye in. Woodfull bowls, and you don't often see him doing that. Brown, a promising opening batsman. The wily Grimmett bowls to Oldfield, probably the world's best wicket-keeper, and a very useful bat. Bradman bowls to Bromley, the dashing left-hander. Well, it's back to the summer game again, and the press and cine boys are duly aware that the Australians are playing the first match of their tour at Worcester. The first ball of the tour. Tim Wall is the bowler. Now Ebeling at the other end. First wicket of the tour. Gibbons bowled Ebeling. The first score, a bye to Worcestershire. The Nawab of Purtori, a possible test selection, is batting for the county to an encouraging crowd. Harry Grimmett is now on in place of Ebeling, with O'Reilly at the other end. Defying the bowlers is C.F. Walters, who is a candidate for the MCC captaincy. The end of the first innings of the tour. Worcestershire all out 112. Now Woodfull, left, and Ponsford come out to open for Australia. And the Australians receive their first ball of the tour. Here's Ponsford at the wicket. And Woodfull. But the first honours of the tour go to Don Bradman, who opens his account with a century compiled in the Bradman manner.
So Don Bradman has started in early again to take toll of English bowling. 206 at Worcester. It was 236 in 1930. Rounds of applause greet his first century. On the second day, he adds 94 in 94 minutes and reaches his double century. Here's the shot which has most heart appeal for Bradman's opponents, his retreating form to the pavilion, while in the field, Don is just as scintillating as at the wicket. Good luck, Don.
Thumbs down for unlucky Wyatt as he inspects the pitch at Nottingham with the selection committee. So the crowd at Trent Bridge see Walters in his first Australian test spin the coin, which Woodfull calls a right. Led by their deputy captain, England take the field. Woodfull and Ponsford, the old partnership, open for Australia. And Farnes, the Essex fast bowler, sends down the first ball to Woodfull. Australian players on the balcony see their first pair start to dig in, and the score gradually mounts, with Ponsford showing the form which has made him so formidable an opener this year. He completes his 50 and seems set for the day. But both he and Woodfull succumb to a change of bowling which brings on Farnes for the second time. Bradman gets a great cheer as he walks to the crease as number 4 in a new batting order. Lunch is taken at 100 for 2, with Don's wicket intact. But afterwards he falls to a catch off Gary. Darling, the left-hander, is bowled by Verity. But Stan McCabe proves a stumbling block to further English progress. Chipperfield, the last-minute choice for the tour, aids him in a 6th wicket stand, which remains unbroken when an appeal against the light puts an early finish to the day's play, with Ferguson, the Australian scorer, notching 207 runs for 5 of his side's wickets. When McCabe on the left and Chipperfield come out to resume on the second day, everybody in Britain is thinking, if only we can get rid of McCabe cheaply. Events prove that Chipperfield ought to have been associated with this pious wish, for it is the newcomer who makes the big runs. .99 he scores, falling to a catch at the wicket off Farnes' 3rd ball after lunch. He has the mortification of missing the century in his first test match by 1 run. O'Reilly bowled, and Australia all out. But the tail has wagged to some purpose, and 374 seems to make the tourists safe from defeat. England open with Sutcliffe and the new skipper, Walters, and are presently in trouble. Though Sutcliffe collects 62 in his own solid fashion, the other early batsmen leave cheaply, the main cause of their undoing being the guile of Grimmett, of whose action the slow-motion camera gives you a leisurely study. The Nawab of Pataudi sits doggedly on the splice for 50 minutes, and close of play sees him associated in back-to-the-wall cricket with Patsy Hendren. In the scoring box, England's tally for the day is recorded at 128 for 4. Good news in Australia. Good old Patsy. Somebody said he hadn't got the test match temperament. With Pataudi and Ames failing, Hendren holds the fort for England on the 3rd day. Ably assisted by George Gary, the little man from Middlesex carries his score to 79 and saves the furrow on. At lunch, England's prospects wear a better complexion, and Gary, played for his bowling, scores his 50. Later on, the batting collapses before the old fox Grimmett, whose delivery in slow motion is shown here again from a different angle. Geary is stumped by Oldfield. And Farnes, last man in, is bowled. And 4 wickets have fallen for 2 runs. Australia's second innings starts, and immediately there is a sensation. Woodfull bowled by Farnes's 5th ball. However, hopes rise only to be dashed, and Stan McCabe settles down to make quick runs. This young man looks like being England's biggest problem in this series, and a partnership with Brown carries Australia's total to 159. 265 runs on, with 7 wickets to fall. The day of England's defeat dawns and finds McCabe continuing his blade work for Australia. After McCabe is out for 88, other batsmen adopt his forcing tactics. And Woodfull declares at 273 for 8. Left with 380 to make on a wearing wicket, England begin their second innings steadily, but soon the wickets are falling. Sutcliffe 24, Hammond 16, Pataudi 10, and Hendren 3 all go, and O'Reilly bowls Walters to end the gallant 46. O'Reilly has found a patch. Here is Australia's new bowler puzzling the batsman in slow motion. Leyland and Ames make a stand and defy the attack for 70 minutes. Doggedly, Leyland fights the clock as well as the Australians. But Australia push home their well-earned advantage in an exciting finish. 7 wickets down, and Geary is caught in the slips. 8 wickets down, Farnes caught by Oldfield. Last man in, Mitchell. LBW. And the visitors win with 10 minutes to spare. Bradman falls as he returns with the rest of the victorious team to the pavilion and has to be helped to the dressing room. It's been a great game, and the crowd outside the pavilion give Woodfull and his men a great ovation. Well played, Australia. England versus Australia. Scene 2, Lords. England have not won an Australian test match here since 1896, but Wyatt signalises his appearance as skipper by beating Woodfull for the toss. The Australians take the field. Sutcliffe on the left and Walters follow to open for England. A steady start. The opening batsmen play themselves in with care. Sutcliffe with his familiar Yorkshire determination, Walters a little more freely, showing confident form and scoring twice as fast as his partner. $50 to Walters, and well earned. The vicissitudes of the great game suddenly plunge England's prospects in gloom. Sutcliffe goes for 20, returning to the pavilion by the members' gate, a revolutionary innovation. Hammond contributes only 2, and the gallant Patsy Hendren fails at the unlucky 13 mark. This brings in Wyatt, and England's skipper stays with Walters until the latter's departure for 82. Wyatt has to have attention to his thumb. Meanwhile, Leyland is beginning to make himself felt at the other end. And a great sixth-wicket partnership with Leslie Ames transforms the game. Leyland, Ames, Leyland. The Yorkshireman has 95 to his credit when at 293 for 5, stumps are drawn for the day. Not bad, England. On the second day, Leyland quickly reaches his century. But departs soon afterwards. Now it's all Ames, and with a beautiful square cut-off wall, England's wicket-keeper tops the 100 mark. But at 120, he goes. England's tail proceeds to wag, although Farnes proves an easy victim for Wall. But the last wicket, Bowes and Verity, puts on 30 runs before the innings closes at 440. Brown and Woodfull for Australia. Brown scores a single off the first ball from Farnes. Runs come steadily, with Brown collecting most of them. Bradman displaces Woodfull and immediately sets about the bowling in a dashing manner, of which this delayed action shot is a good example. After scoring a swift 36, he returns to the pavilion, and McCabe arrives to renew a partnership with Brown, who soon gets his 100. And so it's 6:30 on the second day, and Australia have 192 for 2 on the board. With the heat wave continuing at Manchester, McCabe and Brown start in to carry on with their excellent overnight reply to England's formidable total. McCabe gets his second century in Test cricket, an invaluable knock. With Brown gone, Woodfull is missed early and goes on to play a captain's innings, which is not fully appreciated by some of the fans. The first of the invalids, Bradman, puts up a gallant fight, but Don is not at his dashing best and goes after making a very useful 30. Hammond's bowling is a feature of the English attack, and he has very hard luck with some good balls. The Australian skipper, when looking safe for at least 100 runs, is unfortunately run out. Chipperfield, though under doctor's orders, comes in after all and plays out time with O'Reilly, bringing the score to 423 for 8, needing 55 more runs to save the follow-on. Wanting 55 more runs to save the follow-on, Australia, after losing Chipperfield, fight hard. O'Reilly is joined by Wall, when 23 runs are still needed, and both defend stubbornly. O'Reilly, playing the innings of his life, makes the stroke which means safety to his side and avoids them following on. Wall is eventually run out with the total at 491, which means a lead for England of 136 runs. Going in a second time, the home country opened with their now usual pair, Walters and Sutcliffe. They gather 123 runs before Wyatt decides to declare. Australia bat a second time, wanting 260 runs to win. And after Brown's early departure with only 1 run on the board, no further wickets fall. McCabe and Ponsford playing out time to reach 66 runs for 1 wicket. Patsy Hendren, put on for the last over, proves a very dark horse with the ball. And so the Manchester Heatwave Test ends in a draw. Wyatt wins the toss again, a good omen at Leeds, where England have never won a test match. Walters cracks a boundary off the first ball. Playing in Sutcliffe's absence, Keaton shapes well, but England flatter only to deceive. After the departure of Walters for 44, the innings begins to look like a procession. Wally Hammond, Hendren, Leyland, Wyatt, Hopwood, all in and out in the course of 4 hours' play. Bowes last man, England all out 200. Well may Australia's flag flutter and Warwick Armstrong register grim satisfaction. Now Australia. Ponsford and Brown start confidently, but Bowes gets 3 wickets before close of play. Oldfield, sent in early to play out time, is caught wicket. Woodfull, the unbowlable, bowled for a duck. 39 for 3, anybody's game, and well bowled Bowes. Alas for last night's consolations and vain hopes of yesterday, which reckoned without Bradman. Don's first ball from Bowes he hits for 4. Likewise the second. Don is back to form. Visions of an Australian collapse disappear as Bradman and Ponsford progress. The partnership proves to be a world's record of 388 runs. Stan McCabe has a long wait with pads on until Ponsford is eventually out for 181. Don, undefeated at the close of play, has 271 to his account. Will he go on to beat his own Leeds record of 334? What a cheer when Bradman is out. "30 runs short of his record, Don's score of 304 makes England's 200 total look like Saturday afternoon club cricket. Refreshments for the weary Englishman. Australia try to force the pace. Darling is bowled. "584 all out and 384 all on is the full tally of the Kangaroos' first jump. Bowes has the figures of 6 for 142. Storm clouds hang over the ground and represent England's only hope of staving off defeat as Walters and Keaton begin the uphill task. Rain actually arrives on the following day, with England in the hopeless position of 6 wickets down for 229. The storm breaks and thunder rolls across the sky. The spectators are soaked, and soon the ground is a series of small lakes. The clerk of the weather, England's 12th man, has come to the old country's aid. Disconsolately, Woodfull surveys in Wyatt's company the pitch in which the footprints of Australia's bowlers are ironically filled with rain. At 6 o'clock, the umpires decide that the match must be abandoned. And so the fourth test is washed out. Bad luck, Australia. To the Oval come all those thousands who intend to see the destination of the Ashes decided in the fifth and final match, the timeless test. Wyatt, who has won the toss on the last 3 occasions, has no luck this time. First blood to Australia, and Woodfull naturally decides to bat. At 11:30, the English skipper leads his men onto the field. The tall figure is that great veteran Frank Woolley of Kent, brought in at the last minute. Ponsford comes in with Brown, who has a friendly nod for the cameramen. Bowes opens the English attack from the Vauxhall end. Allen is at the other end. Presently, Clark replaces Bowes, and England's shock tactics are kept going. In his first over, our fast left-hander clean bowls Brown. So far, so good. Bradman takes his place and soon shows his best form. Ponsford, the hero of many a match, reaches his 5th Test century. Not long afterwards, the crowd is cheering Bradman for his 100. And so the merry game goes on, with everybody on their toes, including the police. A quick single is nearly too quick for Ponsford. Clark pegs away. You can see in slow motion what determination he is putting into it. Bowes does his worst from the other end. And now Allen viciously hurls them down. 3 fast bowlers, one after the other. But no impression is made on Ponsford and Bradman. Don has now overhauled his partner and gets his 200. Then Ponsford. Still together, they set up the world's record partnership for any wicket, beating Hobbs and Rhodes' stand of 323 at Melbourne in 1912. In desperation, Wyatt puts himself on. Nearing the finish, Bradman's innings closes at 244. At the end, McCabe is with Ponsford, who carries his bat for 205. A great day's batting gives Australia 475 for 2.
Mrs. Bradman, followed by Don, leaves her hotel en route to catch the boat train at Victoria on their way back to Australia. It will be remembered that Mrs. Bradman rushed to England when her husband's health gave cause for anxiety after his operation for appendicitis. Now he is fit and cheery once more, but inclined to be reticent when questioned as to how soon he expects to be playing cricket again.
Then in the choosing of new gear for next season. Clary Grimmett thinks this bat may knock his bowling about, while Alan Kippax earmarks 1 or 2 for future centuries. On the boat train, faces which have been well known to Britain this summer. Ponsford, McCabe, Brown. The Ashes are en route for Australia. The symbol of cricket supremacy departs from England when the main body of the Australian cricketers embark at Tilbury for home. Woodfull will join them in Naples. And Don Bradman will follow after he has made that recovery of health which all sportsmen throughout the world wish him. The ship sails. Au revoir, Ashes.
At Lord's, the MCC attack shows up quite well when Bradman concludes his knock, and Jim Smith returns a very reasonable figures of 6 for 139. His last victim is McCormick, caught Maxwell, and a typical Australian score is on the board when the innings closes. A formidable task confronts the MCC, but impressive form is displayed by young Edric, and no doubt the selectors make a note of it. McCormick, Australia's fast bowler, has made a special note of the bowling crease and is not no ball. And for the MCC, Wyatt's 84 not out proves quite as conspicuous as Bradman's 278 for the tourists. Fleetwood Smith bowling. Stevenson is caught and bowled for 1. Jim Smith, wagging the tail, is missed more than once off his colossal miss-hits. Farnes is caught and bowled for a duck. The follow-on is a washout, the great drought breaking just in time to avert another Australian innings victory. Trent Bridge, Nottingham, the scene of England's triumphs, the story of batting successes by youngsters and veterans alike. At first, England's new captain, Hammond, performs a skipper's duty by winning the toss from Don Bradman. Barnett and Hutton on the right enter the arena, and the battle for the Ashes is on. Off the first ball from McCormick, Barnett gets a single, and the brilliant Gloucester bat proceeds to rattle up 98 before lunch. He is ably supported by the young 21-year-old Yorkshireman, whose stubborn resistance it's good to see. It's to be a match of centuries. Barnett reaches his. Century or no centuries, I'm having my lunch. Barnett is followed by Hutton, who soon scores just a century. Then the record 5th wicket stand between Dennis Compton and Painter, the Lancashire left-hander. Batting like a veteran, Compton soon catches up his partner, and despite all the skill of the Australians, including Bradman's brilliant fielding, they race to their centuries. It turned out nice, hasn't it? Painter gets his first. Then Compton follows him to be one of that select band to score a century in their first England-Australia test and help Painter to register 206 for the wicket. With Wright now as his companion, Painter, the hero of many a test, reaches his 200, receiving a tremendous ovation as the innings is declared closed. Fingleton and Brown face a heavy task. Farnes opens, and like England, Australia take a single off the first ball. Wright bowling his fast leg breaks gives England an early success, but there's Bradman to reckon with, and Don goes all out to put runs on the board. He puts 50 to his own name. Then Sinfield does the trick, getting him caught by Ames. Bradman is out. That ought to wake him up, and the Australian captain's return to the pavilion is equal to another 200 runs on England's score. A very successful 2 days cricket for the old country. The test match at Trent Bridge continued. The Australians are trying to cope with the situation, but wickets have fallen, and Bradman, on the balcony with Fleetwood Smith, looks despondent and puzzled. There's a record crowd come to see if England can follow up their great start and pull off a victory. Well, as we know, they didn't. Stan McCabe was the man who saved his side. His magnificent innings, a double century, was a masterly effort and cheered up his colleagues enormously. Even Bradman almost smiled. The problem became one for Mr. Hammond to consider, Sir Pelham Warner acting as counsel. Australia's stonewall batting in their second innings made a draw of the match. Some of the crowd took it this way. Others loudly resented even Don's 144 not out in 6 hours. At Lord's, rain falls, and people who had begun to think there might be a good finish to the test now fear the worst. That is, another draw. Father Time won't wait even for test cricketers, and 4 days, if interrupted, are not enough. Brown, with over 200 not out, is the hero of Australia's first innings. When England bat again, Hammond is a casualty and has to have Verity to run for him. Compton saves England from ruin with a fighting 76 not out, and Australia is left with 315 to make in 2 3/4 hours. Painter keeps wicket in the absence of Ames, who broke a finger. Despite another century by Bradman, the match is drawn. A rush for souvenirs of the draw follows, and the destination of the Ashes remains as obscure as ever. Well, since you mention it, here we are at Old Trafford. All England keyed up, Australia on tiptoes. Thousands of spectators just out of the picture. Aubrey Smith right in the picture. The ground looking its natural self, no doctoring whatever. No, all these men are trying to do is mop up 2 days' rainfall so that England and Australia can enjoy another draw. Bradman and Hammond come out to spin the coin. No, just to inspect the pitch. For this is the 3rd test match at Manchester, and it's raining.
What's your opinion about the Mrs. Bradman controversy? She came over to join Don after the 1934 tour when he was ill, and it's hard to see why she shouldn't come again.
Headingley leads, and the weather takes first knock. It's not raining. Once again, Hammond wins the toss for England, and for this, the 4th test, Edrich opens with Barnett in place of the injured Hutton. Early on, it looks as though the wicket is not to be the batsman's paradise prophesied. Hardstaff having been run out, that stalwart Wally Hammond, England's captain, stops the rot, assisted by Painter. Although the batting is slow, the weather is warm, and refreshments take the field, assisted by the crowd. Resuming, O'Reilly soon gets to work, and his brilliant bowling reaps its reward after Verity and Wright make a useful stand, although he misses Wright off his own bowling. When Bowes is bowled, the innings closes with a small score of 223, and the question is, what's wrong with the wicket? Brown and Fingleton open for Australia, but with only 28 on the board, Wright gets Brown. After another 59 are added, Bradman comes out. France has been putting them down at his fastest, and soon bowls McCabe for a single. From now on, it's Bradman all the way, facing a crisis alone, but the light is failing and play is held up. Starting again, Bradman soon reaches his 100, a magnificent and most useful innings. But with only 3 added, Bowes ends his wonderful knock. The Australian innings is all over bar the shouting, and it might have been quicker had Farnes held this one. As it is, McCormick has his stumps shattered by Bowes, and Australia are only 19 ahead. But watch the wicket. Watch that wicket, I said in the last edition. Evidently, some of England's batsmen didn't watch it closely enough, so we'll show you just what it did for them. Continuing with 14 on the board and 30 runs on, England's troubles soon start. Edrich is caught off a no ball, but he goes officially. Immediately after, Bradman holds an Australian conference, and with a touch of genius changes O'Reilly to the other end, when England's catastrophes begin to come fast and furious. Hammond is caught at short leg off the brilliant O'Reilly for a blow. Fleetwood Smith gets Wright caught by weight. Farnes bowled O'Reilly. Bowes LW bowled O'Reilly. And England's total score is 123. Enter Australia, represented by Brown and Fingleton for the final act of the drama, needing 105 to win. But it's not over yet. Brown goes for 9. Soon to be followed by Fingleton also making 9. Then the mighty Don loses his wicket to Wright after scoring 16. McCabe departs for 15. Badcock and Barnett are the last pair, and when Barnett cracks a boundary, the game is won by Australia, who retain the Ashes whatever happens at the Oval. The crowd, having watched the tense crisis, let their feelings go with a mad rush to the pavilion. We join with all cricketers in congratulations to Bradman and his team of sportsmen, and our hearty thanks are due to that wicket for finishing a test match at last. The Oval, however, also draws its big crowd, for the true cricket fan wants to see every ball bowled. The toss-up is most important in a timeless test, and Hammond kindly obliges by winning. He's now won every toss of the series, and it's a perfectly ordinary coin. Hutton and Edrich are opening England's innings on a perfect wicket. Just as they're settling down, out goes Edrich LBW bowler Riley, 12. The Aussies congratulate O'Reilly on his 100th wicket in tests against England. With Hutton now is left-handed Leyland, and an all-Yorkshire partnership gets going. Their scores keep even pace, but Hutton is first to get his century. Then Leyland, with 100 to his credit, acknowledges the applause. This is given so generously that it brings the rain down in a brief but heavy shower. It stops play, upsets the crowd, and inspires a new use for soft seats. Hutton plays an indescribable shot, but escapes with his life and thereafter proceeds footlessly to 150. Soon afterwards is 150 for Leyland, and the grand foundation, 347 for 1, has been laid by Yorkshire when stumps are drawn. Hutton runs in. Leyland walks. The kangaroo looks a little sad.
And as this, I think, is Hutton practicing...
Hutton walks out with Hardstaff on the third day. Of all the records broken in this test, one excites the Oval crowd most, the beating of Bradman's highest ever test score. Here's the historic stroke that does it. Bradman is first to congratulate Hutton. What a day for the 22-year-old Yorkshireman, who goes on to make 364 before being sent back. Bradman, trying everything, puts himself on to bowl, and the scorer puts up a little 8. Then, as if Australia weren't in trouble already, Bradman has to be carried off the field by White and Fleetwood Smith after breaking a shin while bowling. Bradman out of the test and Fingleton, and that's England's total. What else is there to tell, except a word from the hero?
Today, I think, has been one of the happiest days of my cricketing career. I managed to beat Don's great record, and I must say I felt very pleased when I'd achieved it.
And that's really all, for I don't suppose you want to see the 9 Australians' 2 brief innings. As you know, England win by an innings and 579 runs, amid the usual scenes of enthusiasm. But the last laugh is Australia's. They have the Ashes. Close-up of the Australian wizard. Don Bradman goes out to bat with Brown for partner in the centenary match of the Melbourne Cricket Club. Australia versus the rest. Nagle bowling and Bradman knocking him about. Christ bowling. McCabe, now in Brown's place, gets it away, and Bradman has to run like a hare. He just gets home. Don gives the chance, but the fielding side is in need of coordination, and the wizard goes on to make his century. He's now equalled C.B. Fry's record of 6 consecutive hundreds in first-class matches. He's got 1 match left this season at which to add 1 more to his list of records.
In the Sheffield Shield match between South Australia and New South Wales at Sydney Cricket Ground, Don Bradman appears as wicket-keeper, and he keeps them well to Clary Grimmett's bowling. But the great interest of this match is Bradman's innings, in which he hopes to score his 6th successive century in first-class cricket, and so the record will bear the Bradman brand.
In Melbourne, Victoria takes the field in the Sheffield Shield match against South Australia. Not even the fast bowling of Scott, shades of Larwood, can upset Don Bradman today, who's after a new record. Badcock is in with the Don, and nothing will shift them. Bradman delights the crowd of 30,000 fans, while his flashing willow sends the score rocketing. The Victorian bowling tires, and Bradman takes his total to 267. The great man has notched his record all right, having made his 34th double century in first-class cricket.
Cricket Ground, New South Wales team takes on the rest of Australia. It's all in aid of the Army Comforts Fund. Australia batting, Bill Brown piles up a fine score to play his usual sterling opening batsman's innings. And now Don Bradman, king of cricketers, ready to meet Cheatham's bowling and Cheatham in return. But Bradman is having an off day. Now Hassett comes out. He pats the Army goat for luck, and it brings him plenty of it. The little hard-hitting Hassett is playing strongly for the rest, saving his side and giving the New South Wales fieldsmen lots of running around on the boundaries. His method of handling O'Reilly's expert bowling is smart and direct. He goes out to this one and sends it for a 4 that brings up his 50. They call him the Mighty Atom, out for 75, which with Brown's 97 saves the rest from collapse. Now it's their turn to take the field against New South Wales. Clary Grimmett puts in some good work with the ball, getting 5 wickets. Stan McCabe piling him up slowly and surely to collect the top score for his side for the day, 72. Everybody's happy, except the goat. Would you take your hat off, Ma?
In those peaceful summer days, which you remember so well, England's greatest scourge was not Hitler, but a little man called Bradman. He created new records in blood matches on the turfs of Australia and England, and there were times when we despaired of ever getting him out. Melbourne, 1934. Bradman walks out to the wicket with that characteristically jaunty air. Another great score is in prospect. Then, wham! The unthinkable has happened. Bradman has been dismissed for a duck, and the hats of all England went up in the air. Yes, cricket's a great and uncertain sport, isn't it? Particularly at Manchester. However, we mustn't malign the northern counties, so let's go on record without delay that the man who put Bradman's records in the shade was Mr. Leonard Hutton of Yorkshire. Very fittingly, he did this at the Oval in the 5th Test match, 1937. Hutton's a young man, and he'll be available to do the same again, we hope, when England and Australia resume combat after this something war. Hutton's final score was 364, but Bradman's record had been broken at 336.